Every month there is a huge load of new mobile games that comes through, and gameranx does you a big favor, sorts through them, and finds the best stuff for you to try. I'm Falcon, and today on gameranx, the best new iOS and Android games of November 2017. Quick disclaimer, we do 2 lists a month. This is the list of paid games. Stay tuned in a couple of days for the best free iOS and Android games, but batten down the hatches, here's the paid ones. Number 10 is Football Manager Touch 2018. Now this is not a cheap game. This is a $20 mobile game, and graphically, that's not where the money went. And there are other reasons I'm going to give you a maybe on this one, but I do want to talk about how good this game is. If you're familiar with the PC version of the game, this is basically a slightly more, and when I say slightly, I mean slightly more accessible version of that title. If not, this is easily the deepest dive into sports management you're going to find, even if it has been mobilized a little. And I want to stress a little, not much. It's a touchscreen, you have a little bit less options, but it's also not a game where you actually directly control anyone, you're managing the team. This is easily the best at that, period. However, the best at staying open and not crashing, not so much. Now, I want to say that I've seen people who have had worse experiences with this game than myself, but I did have this experience. It's a game that crashes. I hope desperately that it is fixed because it is easily the best of its kind. It just doesn't work right. And that's a little disappointing at $20. Still, I feel like they're gonna fix it. It's too good not to be fixed. So maybe wait on it, but maybe not. Maybe try to plow through it, because it is good. Number 9 is Ocmo, a little ninja rope platformer that if you have hair now, say goodbye. It's appropriately titled in that your main character is basically an octopus, and Achma very much takes advantage of the fact that you've got 8 arms. You swing around, you perform various platforming moves, and it is tough. I don't say that from the perspective of it's too tough or you shouldn't try it. It's a challenging game that I really enjoyed. The level design is well above what I would consider acceptable, and you don't get platformers this good anymore, let's just say. Unfortunately, it's only out on iOS. Hopefully it comes to the other ones, and we'll let you know if it does, because this is a good one. Number 8 is Runic Rampage, which is a hack and slash RPG, although I might call it a smack and slash. So it's more of a hammer-oriented game in all honesty. This is kind of an old school game in all the best ways. It's isometric, it's action-adventure, you have straightforward levels with obstacles and enemies, they're procedurally generated, and trust me, this is one of those games that does that right as opposed to like random and weird like some of them do. Nice upgrade tree, spells, armor, and while some might call it slightly generic, I definitely wouldn't myself. There's not really enough of this kind of game to call it generic. At one point, yes, we were overloaded with this kind of game, but it's really nice to see a competent one come out when there isn't a million of the same thing vying for it. Number 7 is Final Fantasy Dimensions 2, which is going to confuse you right off because I don't know how to describe this. It's a premium game that plays like a free-to-play, except for it doesn't actually suck at that. Like, it doesn't jam any microtransactions at all into it, but you still pretty much have the same structure as a free-to-play, which, as it turns out, when you're not needlessly waiting or being nudged to buy things, isn't terrible. And in some ways, it's kind of weird, but that kind of makes it work. In a lot of ways, it's a traditional JRPG, but in a lot of ways, it's not. There's apparently a highly complex backstory to the making of the game, and it's a remake of a free-to-play, I guess. And they just took all of the things that make free-to-play unbearable out, but left the mechanics in. And I don't know, I like it. I enjoy this game. It is not a Final Fantasy to write home about, but the characters are likable. The art is great. I love the hell out of the art. The music is, as per usual in a Square game, good as hell. If you're looking for one of these to play, look no further. I mean, don't expect mainline Final Fantasy here, but it's fun stuff. And number 6 is Neverending Nightmares. This is one of those intensely personal games where the developer of the game actually battled with mental illness and chronicled it as this game. It was originally released for the PC in 2014, but oddly enough, it hasn't made it to the mobile platforms until now, which is weird because it seems like one that's basically built for it. The game chronicles Thomas, a man waking up in, well, never-ending nightmares. The first one being where he stabbed his younger sister Gabby in the stomach, continually waking up in a bed after committing acts of self-harm or dying or killing someone, and is meant to represent a battle with mental health that happened after the developer, who by the way also made Retrograde, which is a real cool rhythm side-scrolling shooter, had a total financial failure with that game, put a huge strain on his marriage, and generally put himself through a mentally unhealthy time. It's a damn interesting game, and if you haven't played it on PC, I think you probably at least should try it. It's one of those experiences where you think, well, I'm glad I went through that. Number 5 is Dev Tycoon, which, as you might expect, is a port of the PC game of the same name from 2012. Now this is a game that actually does its work, sort of immersing you in the idea of creating a game. You have to come up with various different mechanic ideas, genre combining with aesthetic, making choices that make sense, things that people will actually like. It gives you reports, tells you how good you did in matching all of your stuff, and follows you through the building of a game dev business from your garage to the sky's the limit. It's a game that really nails so much fun stuff, not only in the actual game mechanics itself, but just all of these little design things that if you play a lot of games, just automatically feel satisfying. Number 4 is Disjoint, which is perhaps one of the more interesting puzzle games out there. You rotate triangles around other triangles to get them into the proper spots. This is one of those games that makes you go, oh, I get it, about 500 times before you get to the end of the game. And that is great because that is such a good feeling. It somehow manages to continually cause that. Yes, it's simple in concept, but this is a really challenging and interesting puzzle game that if you like any kind of movement puzzles, I think you should try. Number 3 is Grid Autosport, and good God, this is easily the best mobile racing game, period. I don't even know what to say. There's some small issues we'll get to in a second, but first, just wow. Now, this isn't a completely new game. It was released on PC and consoles a couple years ago, but that's the game that you're playing on your phone. It's not a crap version of that, this is that. If you've got a phone that can handle it, and it meaning a lot of stuff here, this game does not skimp on the graphics. This is a game that lets you tinker with the controls on such a micro level. Nothing compares to it on mobile, period. If you have the newest iPhone, God, it's smooth and nice. But you will get these little minor slowdowns because it is an intense graphical game. That being said, it is worth it. It is a joy to drive, it's a joy to see, and it's amazing to me that this is what we have in our pockets, just walking around like we're there. This is the future. There's no way I could represent the depth that this game brings. It's a simulation, it's fun, it's everything you want out of a racing game. It's the best. Number 2 is Frost, which is a really beautiful kind of puzzle game, kind of art project. It's basically a gesture-based puzzle game where you have to draw paths, the idea being you're guiding spirits back to their home planets, but really what you're just doing is making something that looks incredibly cool happen in front of your face. But don't make the mistake of thinking that it's only the visuals that are interesting about this game. It actually does provide a bit of a challenge. But because of the way the game works and how it looks, you'll often find yourself just not even engaging with the game and playing around with what amounts to some of the coolest effects on mobile. Now, I really think this game has the advantage of actually having a good game under the hood, because sometimes you get these effects-driven art puzzles and they're not enough. They end up seeming like somebody had a good idea for an effect and, well, just built a game around that. But I would say that is definitely not the case with Frost. It's more than a time waster. It's something that you can play an actual game in, as well as just fool around. It's fun either way, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. And finally, number 1 is Million Onion Hotel, which is an action puzzle set in this pixel art sensory overload. It kind of feels like tic-tac-toe and match games, but if they were just on LSD. This is a game that could be best described as a mind job, and that's not a detriment. It's just weird as hell. That's the best way to describe it. If you're willing to get absorbed in something that's weird as hell, you will, because it is more than competent. I don't really know exactly how to label it myself, other than it's a grid puzzler involving the lines. I've gotten decent at it, but it's not exactly like anything else out there, and considering such a populated genre, that's awesome. Quick bonus game for you, Monument Valley 2. We covered it back in June 2017 when it came out for iOS. It is now out on Android. Monument Valley and Monument Valley 2 are just games you gotta play. It's environmental puzzling at its best. Which paid iOS and Android game did you play this month that you enjoyed the most? Leave us a comment, and if you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.